Hi, Jeff Munn, Creating Extraordinary Futures. I often start a relationship with a client with a mini retreat. Sometimes it's on Zoom, sometimes it's in person, but it's an extended period of time, a day or two, several sessions, sometimes, a couple hours per session, where we just let some of that conditioning, habitual thinking, rule following, tendency toward doing, that innate desire that a lot of us have, especially in the professional world, to constantly be in motion, to be productive, to check things off our to-do list. If we spend a couple days together, by the end of the second day, that has begun to unwind a little bit. And when it begins to unwind, when all those habits begin to lessen, it becomes possible to see something different. It becomes more possible, to see what I'm pointing at, which is the fact that we're creating the experience in the first place. The fact that we're unconsciously, innocently creating our own personal reality moment by moment. Now, I had a client where I went through this a couple of times. He was a founder. His name was on the door, as he liked to say it. Where the first couple of days, it was, by the end of it, I was pulling out all the tricks, my bag of tricks, all the tools I had, all the things I could point to, the stories I could tell, whatever, and it wasn't quite sinking in. He kept telling me about the realities that he was operating in, things that looked very real to him, and in a sense, I'm not saying they're not real. In a sense, they look very real. Things like the labor market, the competitive market in the area of work that he was doing, what the future might look like, what was going on in the Ukraine impact his business results, his capacity to get materials and supply chain and all of that stuff. And yes, all of that is real, and most of it was completely out of his control. And yet he was spending a lot of time thinking about, well, if this happens, then I'm going to do this. And if this happens, then I'm going to do that. And that can look really useful until we recognize that probably none of those specific things are going to happen. Something different will happen, and we have the capacity in the moment to figure out what to do about that. When we see that, when we get that, things become just a little bit easier. And so we got to the end of the first retreat, and he was still kind of in that, I've got to prepare. If I don't prepare, no one else is going to prepare. No one is going to save me. My name's on the door, all that stuff, right? And then a few months later, I said, hey, your business is somewhat seasonal. We're going to go into a busy time. Why don't we take a half day, and we'll just kind of do a little mini retreat and check in again? And he said, okay. And, we sat down together and just had a conversation, and we're just talking about what appeared to me to be some kind of random stuff, right? And that's the magic of this. There's something about staying in the conversation where you never quite know when it's going to pop for someone. And he suddenly got how much he was making up. And I could just see the little one after another, after another, after another. Oh, and he would say, and he'd get this little smile on his face. Oh, I'm making that up too, aren't I? Like, yeah, you are. I'm making up what it means to be successful and how to be successful. I'm making up all of the rules that I follow around being the first one in and the last one out because my name's on the door. Doing all of these things, being visible, being supportive, being there, instead of thinking about, well, how do I make this organization more successful? And the way that I make it more successful is to be involved as little as I can, to bring in a leadership team who can do all of the things that I have been doing and exhausting myself doing. And likely, because I'm now bringing in particular people with particular areas of expertise, they likely know how to do that better than I do. It's, in a way, it's a death. In a more important way, it's a transformation. And I see this in almost every client I work with, because almost every client that I work with is in some way going through a transformation, that caterpillar into butterfly transformation. Well, what happens with that, right? And if you know how that works, the caterpillar builds the chrysalis and literally dissolves inside the chrysalis and is created anew as the butterfly. There is nothing in that butterfly that was in the caterpillar. And so when you think about the workaholic founder transforming into the inspiring leader, there's nothing similar about those two. There's nothing similar about the subject matter expert who's now managing a group of subject matter experts, not by telling them what to do, but by enabling them to figure out how to do it most effectively. And those transformative moments are not gradual. They're sudden. They're insights. And what I've found about retreats, what I've found about spending extended periods of time with someone, is that it seems to make those possibilities, those insights, it seems to make it easier for them to happen. So if that's something you'd like to explore, let's talk more about that. Let's talk more about some kind of extended conversation where I have found massive change is possible. So think about that. Explore more on the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.